Hey guys, sorry I haven't posted anything in a little while. Don't think anybody watched that first video yet. But anyway, I have been working on some stuff and now I'm finally back and I'm ready to start making my posts again. And I decided to log into the Daily Mail. Say log in, more like, type in the address and go to it. And the very first thing that pops up is about somebody supposedly being racist, a teacher. Okay, sure, she was being racist. What was it? Show me the evidence. So I click the article, and you have absolutely got to be kidding me at this stupid BS. Why? What's the problem? I read through the thing, and we're going to read through what she had posted on Facebook as well. And on top of that, I see all these little tags as I've been sitting here kind of rereading through it before I get ready to sit down and record this. And I mean, like this one right here. The educator who reportedly makes $130,000 per year is accused of posting. What the hell does it matter how much they make? I really don't understand that. What difference does it make if they make 130K a year or not? This is in Staten Island. And I'm pretty sure up there in New York and Staten Island, that ain't nothing. I mean, she's probably living decently, but I doubt she's living like fantastic and great, especially with their $15 an hour in New York minimum wage, which is just tearing everything apart. Anyway, let's just get down to the bulk of it, to the original post before we get into the article. What is privilege? Okay, so what is privilege? I'm just going to start by defining it. Wait, what? Here it is. A right or immunity granted as a peculiar, that's a weird way, a peculiar benefit, advantage, or favor, prerogative. Basically, it means that it's something that you get. It's a privilege that you have, or an advantage. You are privileged in the fact that you were born into a rich family and you can go to the best schools because they can afford it. You can get the best tutors. That's a privilege. You're able to go down and buy a video game. You're privileged in that way. A privilege that I have is I've worked my butt off as a mechanic. That's what I do all day, every day. I do 50 hours a week turning wrenches. I look at cars, they come in broken. I have to figure out why. I have to decide what's wrong with them, why they're running off, why that check engine light's on. Is it something we need to fix? And then I have to sit there and just brainstorm on it on some stuff, which can be real difficult. Figure it out, get the car fixed, and ship it down the road. That's my job, and I have to do it quickly and efficiently. I'm also worked my butt off. I'm almost 18 plus years into this career to become the actual manager, the service manager. Now, I started as nothing more than a guy that changed tires and fixed flat tires. That's it. That's all I did. That's where I started. I had no privilege. You know what my privilege was? It was, you need a job? Okay, you start over here changing tires. I needed a job. I was out of work. Took what I could get. Turned into being a really good career for me. Turned out that I had the brains for it. So I went with it. Why not? I did go to school. I did have a privilege. It was a privilege where my dad, where he'd been in the Army, passed away. And then I got a grant from the government where I could go to college. Now, long story short on that, I graduated right around the '08 collapse, just shortly thereafter, and there were no jobs left for the degree that I had started and finished. And yeah, you could go back and finish the degree, but that's a whole nother mess that I'm not going to get into, because the whole system for the U.S. for schools is all messed up and screwed up anyway, and it needs reform. It needs changing. But anyway, that actually ties in a little bit to what we're looking at here. So the privilege that they're talking about is something that you can have or get without actually having to basically do anything. That's the synopsis. You really didn't have to do much. You just kind of got it. It was given to you. What is privilege? Privilege is wearing a $200 sneakers when you've never had a job. I would say that's a pretty good privilege if I'm able to walk around a $200 pair of sneakers and I haven't even actually worked my butt off to earn it. I mean, I just spent $200 on a water block for my computer, and I was cringing the whole time. It was expensive, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to be looking at this thing a lot. I want to make sure I like it. And it's a privilege. I don't need it. I don't have to have it. I am privileged because I have worked my butt off to get to the point where I could afford these things. Privilege is wearing $300 Beats headphones while living on public assistance. You know, if you're living on public assistance and you're going out and you're buying those really expensive things like that, that's a whole nother argument that I'm not going to get into right here, right this second. But that is a problem. a problem with the person who's on assistance who's spending it somewhere they shouldn't. And that's another part of the broken system that we should be talking about. We should be fixing. And it's a valid point because it does happen. I'm not saying it happens a lot, but it is. Privilege is having a smartphone with a data plan which you receive no bill for. That is a privilege. You are getting an advantage. You have a phone. You don't have to pay for it. You can focus on putting, money towards food or maybe getting yourself a hand up and moving on. Privilege is living in a public subsidized housing where you don't have a water bill, where rising property taxes and rents and energy costs have absolutely no effect on the amount of food you can put on the table. And that is a darn good point. You are privileged if you don't have to worry about prices going up on your rent. I moved out when I first lived all on my own, and God, what would that have been? 2008, I think. No, was it 2008? Jeez, when was that? 2008? I don't know. It was a long time ago. And when I first started out, rent was around $500-$600 a month. And now, these years later, and inflation doesn't even account for that, rent has gotten to the point here in the area that I live, if you want a decent house or even a decent apartment, you're going to be spending $1,000 a month. Most jobs around here only pay $10 to $12 an hour at most. Doing some simple math on that, yeah, that's a massive chunk of your change. And you still have to pay your water and electric bill on top of all that. I mean, wow. So yeah, if you don't really have that, then you should be able to work a good 40-hour job week, put money back, and be moving yourself into something that you can afford, that you actually like, to a place you want to be. That is a privilege that you should leverage and be. It would be amazing to have, especially if you come from nothing. You have no way to get anywhere, to get anywhere with wherever you live, wherever that may be. I don't care where it is in the U.S. If you're in one of those areas that's a bit impoverished, there's not many jobs, you have this ability, and you can go work a couple of jobs if you have to and save up some money and move somewhere that has a better job to it. I mean, that's just how this is supposed to work. You're supposed to work your butt off, get where you can be better. That's what everybody is going for, being in a better place, in a better state. And that would be an amazing privilege to have. Privilege is the ability to go march against and protest against anything that triggers you without worrying about calling out of work and the consequences that accompany such behavior. If you don't have a job, yeah, that would be a privilege. I work 50 hours a week, so if I want to go protest, or I want to stand there and hold a sign that says I think a lot of the statues being pulled down and all these other things are bad and I don't really agree with them, how can I do it? When am I supposed to do that? That's 50 hours a week. That leaves me 2 whole days and very little time at the end of the day to get anything else done. Especially when I live in an old house that was built in the 40s. I mean, this thing is old and it's got all kinds of little problems. I'm constantly cutting the acre of grass that I have sitting out here in the house I'm renting. I mean, it's a real privilege cutting that grass every couple of days when it keeps raining the way it does. But yeah, I really wish I could spend more time doing those things. Of course, it's kind of an oxymoron for me to be sitting here probably saying that as I'm recording these videos. Privilege is having as many children as you want, regardless of your employment status, and being able to send them off to daycare or school you don't pay for. Again, that's an advantage. And that would be an excellent advantage that you could use and go work and earn more money and get yourself out of that situation, which is exactly what you should be doing. And I get it if there's not a lot of jobs and maybe it's not a job you want to do, but hey, you have to start somewhere. And actually, Transformers had a good quote in it where he goes in, he wants to get the job, he's just graduated, he's expecting to start somewhere good. And he makes a valid point, the guy he was interviewing with. He says, no, you don't want this job. You want the job that comes after this one. He basically says, you have to start here, meaning at the bottom, and work your way up. The next job will be much better. You'll like it. You'll actually be enjoying it. But you got to start doing the stuff that you don't like, which is true. I hated changing tires. I hated doing all that crap, changing oil. My God, that was a privilege, all right. I had an advantage of changing oil. Oh, and I still work at a place right now where I still have to change tires, and I loathe it every time. Every time I got to change a tire, I hate doing them. Hate tires. I've seen so many tires in my life. I just don't want to do them anymore. privilege is sending your kids to school early for the before, and it kind of, I don't know, cuts off there before something or the other and breakfast, and then keeping blank the after. I don't know. It got cut off at that point. But I'm reading this whole thing, and I don't see where the racism is. I don't see where it is saying that black people, let's just say it's the assumption is, and that's just my assumption, is that you're stating that it's black people. And reality is yeah, I believe, and I don't have any statistics to back it up, but my bet is if you looked at it, the most majority is probably going to be of the African American or black persuasion living in public subsidized and taking advantage of all of this, which that is another point to the broken system. Perhaps we don't need to extend these helping hands, if you want to call it that, forever unless they're warranted. You know, there's so many people that do live in it and they just kind of stay in it. And we need to get them mental help more than anything, because it is a mental game. Let's just go ahead and talk about that. It's a mental game. When you are living in the same place, doing the same things over and over again, and everybody that you see that's the same as you, quote unquote, it's just kind of stuck, okay? And you feel like this whole system's broken. And all you do is everybody sitting around like a bunch of hens, clicking and getting angry about it and upset about it. Of course, you're not going to change anything. Why would you if you're living in these situations? And heaven forbid if you get out of the situation, because all your so-called friends will end up looking at you like a sellout. But you know what? If they call you a sellout for being better or getting better, then were they really your friends, or were they really your family to begin with? That's something you really ought to be thinking about. But anyway, getting off of that rant, I don't understand where the racism is. I don't see it. I don't see where they're saying anything racist. They're literally, she's just talking about privilege. She just wanted to start a conversation about that. And A for effort. I love it. I love this. It brings up many great problems that we need to and can fix in our country. Stuff that needs to be looked at, changed, and adapted. Like I said, let's make a limit on it. Let's say they need to do this set of jobs. Now, if it turns out that they're not able to hold them down, maybe we need to be able to get them some actual quality. And I'm not talking about cheap either. I'm talking about somebody who knows what they're doing. Not like we have with our lovely legal system where, yeah, you get to have a lawyer, but most of the time the lawyer does not care. He has 5 seconds to look over the case, tells you just plead this, do this, blah, 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 and then you move on. That's how the public defendants work. I mean, it's just terrible. And I could see that same loophole here where you're given the person that can actually help you, say a psychologist, psychiatrist, or whatever head shrink you need. They are walking you through it, but then it just becomes this really crappy system where they don't care anymore and you're just another person. And I do see that problem, and it can happen. But we have to do something about it. You either get rid of the system that we have completely, which I disagree with. I don't think you should get rid of everything completely, because it is an excellent way that you can get ahead. You can start earning more money. And maybe you keep that for a year or something if all of a sudden you start making more money working a better job. Fine, let them keep it for a year. That gives you plenty of time to make a plan. Maybe 2 years. You have a plan. You have an idea. You can start saving. You can eyeball that place. You can line up that next job, move into it, and go. There's very few people in this world, less than you really think, that actually get handed anything. Almost everybody out there, and I say almost because there are privileged people out there that are born into wealth that can do better just because they happen to be born into it. I actually remember my other coworker from a while back. He has a son that was working his way through school. Now, he is going to a private school, which is the same thing that I want to do for my children, because I just don't frankly care for, like, or trust any of the public schools with the way they are. Again, we need reform. We need changes. We need to make it better. But he literally was going to working and doing all this volunteer stuff at the church. It was Catholic, so that he could send them to the private Catholic school. And it was still costing him, oh God, what was that? Something like $4,000, $6,000 a semester, a year, I think it was, basically. So, I mean, he's having to pay $6,000. That's not a privilege. That's a burden. I mean, he is trying to get his child put up and set up so that he can be better. He's giving him that privilege of working his butt off, helping around the church, doing whatever he's got to do to get his son through the high school, a good high school, a quality one, and off to college. And man, I got to give my hands off to him because that is awesome that he's doing that for his kid. I'm just hoping that I can do the same thing when it's time for my kid because I really don't want to put them through the public schools again. I'm not saying all the private schools are better, but they definitely do a much better job one-on-one and trying to coach, cater, and get the children out more capable and able-bodied. Again, not something that somebody who's obviously on public subsidized anything can afford. And I really don't necessarily agree with all the public subsidized everything, especially not forever. The system doesn't seem to be working. So let's fix it and let's change it. I mean, I guess you could just displace everybody and kick them out and tear everything down, but that doesn't make any sense. You just got rid of the only thing that they may have had that was helping them. Of course, in some people's cases, you might have to kick them out because there is no way to help them other than kicking them out and giving them that jump start. But again, I've read and read and read and read, and I just don't see where the racism is. And this whole article goes on, lengthy, continued, and they're just talking about it. Cornerstone Live, Staten Island Live, Facebook said it was spotted by a parent who started a change petition. Why are you doing a change.org petition? It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. You just want to have her removed because your feelings were hurt, because you felt targeted? If you felt targeted, then you need to fix yourself and figure out what your problem is. Don't be going and pointing the finger at other people. If you feel that way, then maybe there's a problem with you and there's something you need to be fixing. Let's see here. A longtime educator, principal at New York, drop. Yeah, an anti-black. She didn't say anything in there that this targets black, at least in the little post that I see here. I don't understand where she said all black people are stupid or anything like that. There was nothing racist in there. It was just saying this is what privilege is, defining the word, showing examples. And yeah, I have to agree. That's a privilege. Let's see here. The parents' petition, which now has more than 9,900 signatures. Let me guess. Most of them probably don't even live in the area. Then states, this leads me to the question of what kind of practices she's instilled in the culture at New Drop High School. What kind of environment our children are learning. A good one, where they understand what these things are so that when they go out into the world, they know what privilege is. They can actually see it. They can tangibly touch it, understand it, and go, wow, look what I have. Appreciate it. Because if you have all these things and you're able to buy those things, you're obviously not managing your money right if you're spending it on stupid stuff. And my God, when I was younger, did I spend it on stupid stuff. Hell, I'm still kind of spending on stupid stuff because I bought a $200 water block that I really don't need for my computer. But guess what? I bought it anyway because I wanted it, because I am privileged at a point where I can afford to do these things. So you know what? Kudos. I worked my butt off. I've earned it. I have the privileges that I have because I have been working hard on them. I have earned where I'm at. The New York Post reports that Morris Cunningham makes around $130K in her year. Why does that matter? Why did the New York Post put that? This is on the verge of doxing territory at this point. You're trying to tell people how much they earn. Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? That makes no difference on your point. The school reportedly has a minority enrollment of 49%. Nearly 60% of the students are economically advantaged. Okay, so 60% of them have an economy advantage, meaning that they make enough money that they don't have to worry about those things. Okay, and in a statement on Tuesday, DOE Press Secretary Miranda Barbot confirmed the probe and stated the DOE stands against racism. Schools must be safe and inclusive learning. Okay, yeah, I agree. Racism's bad. We agree on that. We all know you say that. Teachers and staff have a responsibility to uphold these values and principles, reported the Institute for Investigation. I don't even know why there was an investigation. They should have looked at it, read it, and said, the word black was never mentioned. They never mentioned African Americans. They simply stated something and moved on. This doesn't even need to be brought up. It should have just been swept under the rug and went. But no, people get sensitive about things nowadays and they get all upset about it. On Monday, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said he had not seen the post but was very concerned. What are you concerned about, Bill? Shut up. I don't care. If you didn't read the post, then you have no business saying anything. Why did you even put that in here? He didn't see anything. All he said is, "I'm a moron." Ho, ho, ho. That's all I heard when you were reading that. He's very concerned. Over what? You didn't read it, so you should have said something like, "I haven't read it yet. I'm going to look into it, and I'll see and I can come back to you after that." Fine. No one in a position of authority should use racially sensitive language, especially someone who's an educator to kids to look up to, he stated. Sure, you are correct. They should not. I'll give you that. Again, did you read the post? No, you didn't. Did you read the post? No. So what are you concerned about? There's literally nothing to be concerned about. I mean, my God, I want that person to keep her job. I don't see why she would need to be fired. Oh, this just makes me so angry. And I just don't understand. I mean, this woman obviously cares and she's trying to teach something and she's trying to put out there an opinion on something. And nowhere in it did she say all the blacks are ignorant, idiotic, or stupid. I think so many people have blurred the lines on what racism actually is. If you really want to see what racism is, you need to go watch Django Unchained. Seriously, that was a very accurate depiction of what it was actually like back then. I mean, you had people being told they were nothing, property, etc., etc., etc. N-word was used so many times. And I mean, it is an excellent example of how things were back then. I'm not going to say it wasn't all the shooting and the people flying and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the headgear they were wearing, the way they were treating them, throwing them in a box naked, pulling them out and throwing water on them to cool them off, just to cool them off, I guess. I don't know, after they were hot boxed for how long. And they didn't care. However they wanted to treat them, they could, because they were beneath them. They were the dirt on their shoes. And this has been going on for decades. Racism has. For any number of reasons. Okay? You all really just don't understand what racism is if you think this is racism. I really have to question it. I know what racism is because I have personally seen it and I've seen it happen to people and I have stood up for it. Just know that this isn't. I don't even have words for it at this point. I don't know what else I can say. She pointed out what privilege is. She pointed out that there are problems. Maybe she could have put it more to the point to say, hey, I thought I shut that phone off, you stupid. Anyway, I'm a little angry over here. There was a couple of different things she could have done. Maybe a little bit different to make her point better. Perhaps, okay? Nobody can disagree with that, I don't think. But she did talk about privilege, and her question was, what is privilege? And I think she did answer that admirably. I love it. I mean, she is correct on everything that I can see here so far. I don't see what the problem is. Again, if you feel like you have to make a petition and you feel targeted on this for some reason, I think that's on you and you need to back off, let off the gas, self-reflect, and move on. Grow some thicker skin about this. My God, people. I'm out. I'm getting more angry the more I sit here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, drop a comment, share the video. Thank you.